Good morning, everybody. Morning. Thanks for joining us. I'm Frank Scales with Component Control. And this morning we're going to be presenting to you in this session to try to give you an understanding of the Quantum Portal. So I'm the Director of Consulting Services at Component Control. I've been there for, it's going to be, 15 years in November. During that time, I've done a lot of different things, and currently I work within the sales department, and I'm working with all of you, the existing customers. So I oversee the process if anybody's needing additional software, new modules, and things like that. My co-presenter this morning is Cole Davison. Cole is our Chief Technical Officer. Cole's also been with us for about 15 years. Has his hands in a lot of the development throughout Quantum and certainly focuses on anything that's web-related and oversees the web services group as far as the web development group. So those are the folks who are doing things along lines with the portal that we'll be looking at today. Other things that you've seen already, stockmarket.era, the stock market, a lot of that activity falls underneath Cole. Additionally, we have a panel present here today. We've got Andrew Valley. Andrew is our Vice President of Sales. We have Deepthi Tamana. Deepthi is one of our developers at Component Control, and it's actually built quite a bit of the portal functionality we're going to be showing you today. Okay. We also have David Miller. Dave's been with us quite a while. He does implementation and training. It's rare that he's actually in San Diego. He's usually out on site working with you all, so we're very happy to have him here. We've also got Pamela Capper. She's sitting down in the front here. We're a little crowded on the stage, so I couldn't fit everybody, unfortunately. Pamela is our East Coast representative. She covers the territory of the northeast of the U.S. as well as eastern Canada, and she's based out of New England. And I also have Ryan Riella Vasquez. He also is sitting down in the front row. Ryan does training. He's customer care and training services. And I asked Ryan to join us because he's also going to be doing a session tomorrow that integrates in with the portal. He's going to be talking about how a remote managed inventory module can be deployed to support forward stocking programs and how the portal integrates in with that. I'll talk about it a little bit today, and Ryan will go in greater depth tomorrow. And then let's see who we've got here. Maury. I don't think I've got Maury on the list. Maury Laranjari. I think you saw him a little bit earlier today. He is in charge of stock market sales. So he does everything for the part search app that was just presented a little bit earlier, as well as advertising, banner ads, logos, and things like that on stockmarket.arrow. And last but not least, I've got Luke Brown with us here today. Luke is one of our technical support specialists. He certainly specializes in everything that's web-related. So that includes things like stock market, portal, any of those types of things. So hopefully between this entire group, we should be able to answer any questions that you might have. So what are we going to talk about? Well, in this session we want to start by talking about what is the portal. Let's see how far I can get. Well, I can get that far at least. We're going to talk about what it can do. We're going to talk about who controls it and how does it all work. We're going to do a little bit of case studies. We're going to say how is it being used. We're going to cite a few companies out there who are using it, things they are doing with it. We're going to explain how to get it up and running, what the process involves. And last but not least, we're going to ask if you want to get a little bit advanced, and we'll rely on Cole to talk about those things for us. So first off, what is the portal? As I see it, it's a quick and easy way to get closer, for you to get closer to your customers by allowing information from Quantum onto your website. And it's you allowing information that your customers can log in and see, again, on your website, but also giving your customers the opportunity to input information that's going to come back into your Quantum in a couple of different places. And I'll show you what I mean by that. Before we go too much further, though, I just want to give you the link here. As has been mentioned a little bit earlier, all the presentations are going to be made available on the Q Group website, including this presentation. There are links throughout my presentation and all the presentations Component Control will be giving. Those links will take you out to our website. For my presentation specifically, we've got links here that'll take you out to our portal webpage, where we also have a demonstration video. So if you're back in your offices, you can access the presentation here and also go out to our website for more information if you need to. All right, so what can the portal do? Well, it provides out-of-the-box integration points to multiple Quantum modules and multiple Quantum fields. For example, out of the box, the portal provides integration into the shipping management module. All right? This is a way for you to give visibility to your customers of everything that you've got running through the shipping management module. They can see airway bill numbers. They can see the statuses. If you choose to, you can give them access to drill down in and see the actual contents of these shipping orders. Okay? And you've got a lot of different options as to the amount of information and the fields you want to make available to them. And we're going to show you some examples in just a minute and how to drive all of it. You also have out-of-the-box integration into the invoice management module. Okay? With the portal, you can choose to let your customers see what you have billed them. And again, you've got control there. You can make it just the invoice number and the amount and the date. Or if you choose to, you could allow them to drill down to see the invoice detail, the items that have been invoiced. You even, if you want to, can enable, if you're working with our document imaging piece, the ability for them to reprint invoices. Okay? So that's all the invoice management. The accounts receivable module, for those using quantum accounting, is also integrated in via the invoice management. They can log into your portal. They're accessing their accounts. They can see what they still owe you, what's been paid, what's not been paid, what their current outstanding invoices are. Okay? As I mentioned, the document imaging is integrated throughout. So basically anywhere where you're accessing records in Quantum that are containing messages, for example, like stock lines or part masters, your customers, your users are going to be able to access the images that you choose you want to make available to them. Okay? Time and attendance piece. This is an example of where the portal can be deployed not necessarily externally to your customers, but for internal use. Okay? With the time and attendance piece, you could have shift supervisors log in onto the portal to approve timesheets for your users, for your workers who've registered time with time and attendance. You also, if you've got people out in the field doing field work, you can have them logging on via the portal to record their labor against work orders or work packages. Okay? Sales orders. So you're going to, with the portal, be able to have your customers get in and search for inventory, place orders that become actual sales orders in Quantum. Okay? You can also have them generate activity for customer quotes. And again, I'll show you this in just a minute, but they're going to be able to do things like search your part masters, search your stock lines, and then ask you for a request for quote or request for pricing. Okay? Or they can just go ahead and put in a list of part numbers. They can upload Excel spreadsheets if you want to allow them to do that with part numbers that then become customer quotes in your system that you can work through with them. We've got integration out of the box to the manufacturing module. Anybody using our manufacturing module, if you're in a build to order type scenario where you've got a customer asking for specific parts, you built an MO, you link their name to it, if you choose to, you can give that customer access to the manufacturing module, see what the status is for your MOs, again with some drill down stuff. We've also integrated it in with our remote inventory module. This is a module we rolled out a couple of years ago. This module is designed to support forward stocking programs or just-in-time inventory programs where you've contracted with a customer where you're storing material at their facility, or maybe you've got set up contracted pricing for on-demand parts. When they need a part just in time, they notify you, you ship it. With the portal, you can really bring some value into this relationship for both you and your customer. For your customer, you can give them the possibility of when they need a part and when they've consumed a part and they want you to replenish it, they can log on via the portal to record the consumption. It becomes a need in remote inventory in your system. You know to source it and or ship it right away. So it's an easy way for your customers to get in and record usage. They can do the same thing for the on-demand parts, the just-in-time stuff that you're not stocking at their facility, stuff that you're providing for them. All right? They're going to be able to log on via the portal and request those parts. Some of the business models for this remote inventory relationship, the billing isn't done based upon consumption of the parts necessarily. The program can be tied to support of an aircraft or support of an entire fleet. So maybe the billing activity for that program is tied to the operation of the fleet. The portal also allows you to link to remote inventory records that are linked to the rental lease module. So if you're working with the remote inventory and the rental lease module, you're going to have the ability to record flight time and then bill it, again, a single aircraft or a fleet, whatever it is. Via the Quantum portal, you can make it available to your customers to go ahead and record that data right there without having to generate reports and send them to you. So the immediate demand for the parts, I think, is a great value for the portal for you to put forward to your customers. The ease of managing programs like this is going to come in for you if you can direct your customers there to record flight times. Additional stuff, contact management. If you've got people out in the field, salespeople or things like that, and you want to give them access to contacts via the portal without having to log directly into Quantum, so any web-enabled device, they could get into the portal and look at contact management. And last but not least, shop control. They can. We spoke a little bit about field users, people out in the field doing work and recording labor. You've got that option with the time and attendance. With the shop control, though, if you chose to, you could also make your work order records and your work packages available to your customers. Customers could log in and see basically whatever detail you want to give them. And I'll show you an example of this in just a minute. statuses of jobs, task cards that have been completed, whatever it is. And you all control all of it. You control how much information they get. And you can, well, and I'll show you how to set up all of this. You're going to create user roles and user logins, and then based on those user roles, you'll decide what information different users can see. Okay? Let's get into a little bit more. Okay. So, as I said, you can create multiple user profiles and views. I'm going to go ahead and jump into a portal instance here real quick. This is what we call our demo portal. This is what we use for product demonstrations. I also am going to be jumping into some live production environments for some customers in just a minute. So the first portal I'm going to log into, or I should say the first... There we go. So the first login I've used, because I'm logging into the same portal all along, the first login I've used is one I've created for a gentleman named Paul. This is an example of a profile that you might set up for a user if you were doing parts sales or parts distribution. You might grant a user access with a profile that looks like this. And they might be able to come in here on a summary page and see how many open RFQs they've got, how many open quotes, how many open POs. Now this, I'm again a customer logging into your portal, seeing information from your Quantum. So these are my purchase orders, but these would be, of course, sales orders in your Quantum, right? So these are open sales orders. This would be access to the shipping activity. This would be access to the invoices. So this is a summary view here, and I can click on any of these links and then get into that information. And then you see across the top, you've got a whole series of tabs, and that takes you into all of these different modules. So for example, if I wanted to be able to search for part numbers, I could put part numbers in here. Okay, search for 721. It's returning information from my part master. I can drill down in here, see more information about the actual stock activity, and then I could do a couple of things. This user happens to be configured that if I'm interested in getting these parts, I could send an RFQ. That becomes an open customer quote record in your Quantum. You've got other things, though, too. We've got profiles available where you can set up shopping carts. So if you would like to show pricing to this customer, if you've got contractual pricing out there already, you could have this customer go ahead and add this part to a cart, and then that becomes an SO, a sales order in your system with that material reserved. Okay? So there's a lot of different options. I also might have, so this would be again if I'm doing part sales. I mentioned a little bit like the forward stocking program. I don't know if anybody in the room is using the remote managed inventory to manage any of these programs with forward stocking. But here I've got an example of a couple of RMI records where I could log in, where it says I could log into the portal, click on Manage Inventory, and then record usage of parts, consumption of parts, so that you know as the Quantum user to replenish them, ship them back to your customer, and maybe bill for them based on the billing model. And I can also request what are called the on-demand parts. Again, that's the material that I'm not stocking at the customer site, but I'm making available to the customer as needed. So all of that can come through. Something we recently just added also as well was a link to RMAs, return material authorizations. You can do a couple of things here. You could see existing RMA requests. So again, this is your customer logging onto the portal you have set up for them. I'm logging in as the customer, seeing requests I've made to you potentially via search screen, or I could even submit an additional request here if I wanted to. So lots of different stuff you can do with the module. And I'm going to show you in just a minute how you go through the screens to configure what user access might be. So that's one user profile. I'm going to log in with a different profile here. Now with this one, you can see the portal's changed, right? It's got the same look and feel, but the tabs across the top are totally different. This is a portal profile that somebody doing repair MRO work might use, okay? So maybe I'm not selling parts, but I'm doing work orders. So if the customer's logging onto your website and wants to see information, they're searching for their open repair or repair order. And you can name these things anything you want. It doesn't have to say RO, whatever you like. They might be able to do a search here with some different filter options and pull up open work orders in your system. Okay? So some nice detail here. I've got my PO number, the work order number, the part number. And again, you all control the fields that get returned here. All right? And if you wanted to grant them even greater access, they could drill down into the work orders. Boom, so here's a work order. For folks using work orders, you can picture, or work packages, right? This is all your header information. And again, you can turn these fields off and on, change the field labels available to the portal, whatever you like. Down here, I've got my actual work order. I've elected to allow them to expand it. Again, you can turn this off and on and show the individual tasks. So I'm going to say my customer's clicking on the disassemble. They see that, okay, that task was closed on this date. And what's going on with the inspection? Okay, the inspection is open, so we're in process. Okay? And again, it's up to you if you want to give them visibility of this. And it doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing. You set it up by user login. So customer A might have access to this, maybe a sister company, trusted trading partner. Customer B, you give them just more basic access to see that the job's still in progress. It's all up to you. And of course, if you're working with sub-work orders, that's another option. Okay. If you elect to, you also can give users access to this My Account information. So when they need a username or password, they're going to email you, okay? They don't actually create a request on the portal here right now, okay? But if you want to, you can let them come in and see all the data that's there. They can change their password or edit the profile, whatever you want. Again, it's all up to you. Okay? So again, this is the parts distribution view we were talking about a moment ago. And this is the same, the MRO view I just showed you a little bit ago as well. So practical applications, how this can be deployed. You can hopefully get a feel for all the different modules that are there. And you guys are using Quantum. You can tie in what's showing on the portal screen to your Quantum, to the different modules. And some of the applications of it, I think, are pretty obvious. If you're selling material, you could allow them to search inventory. They can place, again, requests for quote for you if you like, or they can even create sales orders, whatever it is you want to give them access to. They can request pricing if you like. We've done some really cool stuff with some customers. I'm going to show a high-level example of it a little bit later, where we've actually made it possible for you to display pricing information to certain customers. For example, if you have pricing data on price lines, you can tie those price lines, as you know, to specific customers. Every user login that you create is going to be, every external user login is tied to a Quantum company record. So if you chose to, you could go ahead and have price lines in Quantum tied to a customer. When the customer tied to that company logs into the portal, you can show them pricing if you want. Okay? So your options of interacting with them are either a request for quote, you quote them that normal formal process, or if pricing is available, you could allow them to go ahead and see pricing, and again, add items right to their cart if you want. They can place orders, they become the sales orders, again, with no pricing if you choose, or with pricing, whatever you prefer. Okay? What I think is kind of fun, though, interesting, is you can deploy this to meet some contractual commitments. For example, let's say you've got pricing with a customer, you're expecting to do a high volume of work, and as part of the contractual agreement, you agree that they're going to be placing all their purchase orders to you online. Okay? You'd be able to open that up via the portal. They place parts and orders into the basket. It becomes a sales order in your system. You might need to be able to display to a trading partner the visibility of the invoices paid and outstanding. The portal's going to let you do that out of the box. The material usage we talked about for the forward stocking programs, visibility of the work orders and the MO statuses for your customers, shipping information, and access for remote employees. This is all good stuff coming right out of the box for the Quantum portal. Okay? Who controls it and how does it all work? Well, you control it. You control it as the administrator. Okay? You go ahead and create and update users. Every external user that you create is assigned to a company in Quantum. So that ensures when a user logs in, they're seeing only data that you want to show them from their company record. It's not like they get in and search across companies. You define and assign roles. So those roles are going to be what determines the different modules they have access to, the fields they have access to, how far they can drill down, what those fields are labeled. Module access field, visibility, field labels. Okay? I'm going to show you an instance of this real quick. We're going to hop back into the portal for just a second here. I bet everybody knows what this password is. Okay, boom. Now I'm logged in as the administrator. So as the administrator, I have it configured that I have access to all the modules. So you've seen things from the different profiles, both the MRO profile and the parts profile I did a minute ago. Plus there's other stuff in here as well. Okay? I'm going to go all the way over here to the far right, and I'm going to go to the administration. On the administration, you're going to see a series of options here. This is one where I create the users. I'm going to come in here and give them a username and a password and tie them to a Quantum company. I can also create internal users. So I say this is an employee. In that instance, they're not necessarily tied to a company. I can get in here and update the users, update their information. And what's important is with this is that I can update what their roles are. So let's say, for example, we'll go look at Deepthy's profile. Okay? Here's all Deepthy's information. Okay? And with Deepthy's user login, I assign her to a role. Okay, I assign her to a role. And that role is what drives the modules that are available to her, the fields she can see within those modules, and the labels on all of those fields. Now, creating and updating the roles is really simple. In the create roles, I just basically give it a name and a description. That's pretty basic. But down below here where it says update roles, I'm going to go in, for example, let's go to the... I'll just open them all up. We have quite a few roles out there, so it's taking a second. Okay? I'm going to go into this user function role first, and I'm going to go in here where it says modules. Okay, so this list of modules here is that list that you saw of tabs when I logged in first as the administrator. Okay? If I want this user role, so remember I'm defining a user role that's then going to be assigned to a user, right, or many users, whichever users I want. If you want this user role to have visibility of the summary tab, the home tab, to search stock, if you want them to have visibility of the things like the shipping orders, the invoices, all this stuff, open RFQs, you just check it or uncheck it here. These fields are editable. So the label here for the administrator says SO status, but I can change this label so it says open purchase orders, or whatever you want it to display for your customer, for your user logging in. Okay? Then within each of the modules, I say what is the information I want for that user role to have access to. So this one that says open ROs, these would be ROs, repair orders to my customer. So these would be work orders in my system. So I've created a role here. It's got access to work orders. I'm going to assign it to a user. When that user goes into that screen, when they're searching for those work orders, when they get that data back, what do I want them to see? Can they see their customer reference number, their work order number, the part number, the description, the status, all this stuff? You guys here just check or uncheck the fields you want to make available. You change the descriptions of those fields if you care to right here. And if you remember, there was a drill down screen on that work order. Remember, I came up with a list of work orders. I could click on the work order number and drill down in. This is the drill down screen. So on the drill down screen, I'm going to say, okay, what header information do I want them to see? What fields do I want them to see? Remember, I drilled down into those tasks. This is where I drive the tasks. Okay? So the message here is you, as the administrator, can create and manage all of these roles. You don't need to come to component control. You don't need to know how to write HTML or anything complex, XM, anything. It's all very simple. You just run it all yourselves. Okay? How does it all work? Okay, well, I am now going to turn this over to Cole, because Cole's going to tell you from a more technical standpoint how it all works, because I know how it works on the front end.
And I know how it works on the back end. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time going over some of the sort of IT side of how the portal is constructed, some of the implications of the way we built it in how you might be able to use it, and also talk a little bit about how you would go about implementing it and placing it on your network and making it available to your customers. So I guess the first slide here of mine says, how does it all work? And I've got four points here, and I'm going to go through them all in some detail. But just to introduce them, the first thing to know is that the portal represents a browser-based user interface shell on top of the Quantum database. So it's just like the quantum Windows application is a shell on top of the quantum database, the portal is a shell on top of the quantum database. So both of them are interacting with the same underlying data, and that has some implications, particularly if in the past you've worked with or built websites where you had to extract data out of your database to make them available for your web page, and then if somebody submitted data back to you, you had to somehow import that back into your live database. Those issues go away because we really are just working in a browser-based shell on top of the quantum database. The quantum portal application and the entire quantum portal infrastructure is built entirely with open source software. Not only is that kind of cool if you're an IT geek and a supporter of the open source software movement, but it also has some implications when it comes to third-party licensing costs, which in fact there are none, and we've done it that way specifically to try to minimize what the costs would be to implement the system. I say here that the portal is implemented as a pre-configured virtual appliance, and we'll talk a little more about what that means, but to put the bug in your ear, we're using more and more virtualization technology, and this is an example of one of them. The portal is packaged up into a self-contained, what they call a virtual appliance, that can, if you want to do it this way, have essentially no user serviceable parts, right? We deliver it to you, start it up, and it's just as if you'd bought a machine and set it on your network and turned it on. You don't necessarily have to get inside and do anything to it, which makes implementing a website, which is what we're doing here, a whole lot easier, especially if you don't have dedicated IT resources or developers on site. So we'll talk a little bit more about what that means to you. And then I think maybe the most important thing here is that this system was designed from the ground up, from day one. It's designed to live on the public internet, and that if it lives on the public internet, that has some implications, particularly with respect to you being able to control access to it and you feeling that there's adequate security protecting everything behind it. And so I'll talk a little bit about that and sort of put people's minds at rest about the potential of exposing quantum to the public internet. Doing it this way gives you a great deal of control and security. So when I say it's a browser-based UI shell on top of the quantum database, that has a couple of important implications. The first one is that means that anything that's available inside the quantum system should be available from within the portal. Now, we haven't necessarily built all of quantum in the portal yet, but anything you're using in quantum that you'd like to see a way to expose that over the internet to your remote users, whether those are your customers, your vendors, trading partners, remote employees. If the data is being managed in quantum, we can hook into that with the portal and build functionality to present that in the way that you need. The data that's displayed in the portal, as I said a moment ago, is being pulled directly from the quantum database. There's no extracting data out into a secondary database that's then available to the website. It's all real time. If you make a change in the portal, it gets made in the quantum database within that transaction. And because we're able to build these sort of self-contained bits of quantum functionality into this browser application, it means that you can expose suites of quantum functionality tailored to your users without having to give them access to any other part of quantum. In the past, the traditional way that people would give remote access to quantum would be through something like remote desktop or Citrix, but now that person is in quantum. In this case, they're not in quantum. You're able to segment off specific pieces of quantum-based functionality and make those available in a very controlled way. That's potentially useful for your users who don't need to use all of quantum. If you've got remote mechanics working on a plane in in the middle of the outback, they don't necessarily need to be able to get into your general ledger. So there's no reason to give them direct access to all of Quantum. You can give them access limited just to the things they need, but it also, as I say, means that you can give access to Quantum to your customers and vendors and people who aren't your employees without having to worry about whether you've ring-fenced them in adequately. So the Quantum Portal, the entire Quantum Portal infrastructure is built entirely with open source software. Out of the box, the way we package it up and deliver it to you is as a pre-installed virtual machine with a version of the Ubuntu Linux operating system. It's actually a server version, which means it doesn't have a desktop GUI user interface, so it's very small, very light. The application itself is built all in Java, and it runs on a Java application server stack that's distributed by Red Hat, one of the major players in the open source software community. Everything's written in Java. We use J2EE, which is Java Enterprise Edition technologies, including Java server faces. This, if you start glazing over, this will be over soon, and we'll get back to things that aren't geek speak.
I got pretty things to show.
Yeah, Java server faces, Red Hat's rich faces component set. The SEAM framework for managing, for session management. The take-home message for you is that given that we've built everything from the operating system level all the way up using only open source technologies, means that you don't have to pay for any third-party licensing. You don't even have to license a copy of Windows to run the server, right? It's all free to use. We've leveraged really all of the standard, sort of globally accepted standards for building web applications. The web browser UI is all standard HTML and cascading style sheets, CSS. That means that anybody who looks at it, who's a web designer, web developer, should be familiar with these technologies. We didn't do anything tricky or special. It's all pretty standards compliant. You've got direct access to the cascading style sheets on your portal, so you can modify the look and feel and, to a degree, the behavior and position of things on the screen, colors and graphics, font faces, all of that, completely available to you to modify to your heart's content. And it's all structured in such a way that if we deliver a new version of the portal to you, we don't wipe any of that out. We don't overwrite any of the work that you've done. It's designed from the beginning so that you would be able to customize it to the degree we could make it to your heart's content. Yes, sir?
What about implementing third-party CSS like Bootstrap or something like that?
Potentially, yes, it is an option. I don't know if you guys heard that, but the question was, what about the possibility for implementing third-party CSS technologies like Bootstrap, for example? Because you've got all of the HTML and you've got all of the CSS there, you can use things like JavaScript and the ability to append additional code onto the files as they're being constructed and sent out, the HTML content as it's being sent out. So yeah, it should be possible for you to include your own additional cascading style sheet content or to link to third-party CSS content if necessary. And if it turns out not to be as straightforward as me just saying, oh yeah, sure, we can certainly work with you on that. The thing is that because this portal, you're the only company that has this version of the portal, we don't have to, we can customize it and help you customize it independent of what anybody else has ever done with the portal or will ever do with the portal, which is a little different from some of our previous offerings like the stock market and the part search app, where we host it, there's only one version, so everybody gets the same thing. Here we can work with you to try to customize it, even if out of the box it's not as easy to link to Bootstrap as I'm saying. We'll work with you to try to help with that. But yeah, I think it should be all open and available to you. So the other thing about using the standards-based technologies that we have is that, excuse me, is that you don't always have to come to component control to customize things. This means you'd be able to get your own local web design resources. They're working with technologies they're already familiar with, and they can go to town on customizing it without having always to come to component control for custom programming. So I said that it was deployed as a pre-configured virtual appliance. We've set with using VMware's virtualization scheme. It's not to say that VMware doesn't interact with other vendors' virtualization schemes. It certainly can. We're best at supporting VMware because it's what we use in-house. The virtual machine that we build for you is designed to be a very small footprint. I think there's a 30 gigabyte hard disk image, and it doesn't get any bigger than that. So that's as big as it's ever going to, as much storage as it's ever going to take. I think we recommend a gig of RAM to be allocated to it. So it's really a very small footprint, but because it's a virtual machine, if you ended up having very high traffic on it, you can allocate additional RAM to boost up the performance. So it gives you the flexibility to do that within your own virtual infrastructure. The Portal virtual machine can be hosted on VMware's VMware Server product, which is a service that runs on top of a Windows operating system. It can also be hosted in VMware's ESXi service, which is actually an operating system level virtual infrastructure server. Both of them are free to use in a production or any other environment. The operating system, the web application server stack, and our portal application all come pre-installed and configured. Basically, we have to just add the virtual machine to your virtual infrastructure inventory, configure networking so that the operating system of the virtual machine is on your LAN, and start up the JBoss server, and the portal's up and running. Our network services department does this for people. They know the ins and outs of all of it, how to get the machine on your local area network, how to configure it to find your Oracle server, all of those sorts of things. So if you don't have dedicated IT resources who have the capacity to work with some of this stuff, we generally do it all for you anyway as part of the installation process for the Quantum Portal. So I said that it was designed from the beginning to live on the public internet. Well, most people who implement the portal, the reason they're doing it is because they want to make it accessible to external users on the public internet. Now, certainly it's possible to have use cases where the portal only lives inside your LAN, and if that's the case, then you've got fewer things to consider than if you want to make it public. But I think the real value, obviously, is to be able to publish this content out to the public internet. That means there's going to be some work that we got to do with your IT group and or your ISP, your service provider, internet service provider. You're going to have to come up with a name, a fully qualified domain name for what the portal is going to be accessed via. You're going to have to get a public IP address from your from your ISP, or if you're a big enough company, maybe you just have to ask your IT department. And in most cases, you're probably going to want an SSL certificate. An SSL certificate is going to be purchased from a certificate authority. But we can work with you on all of those things if, in fact, your IT department, or you don't have an IT department, and you're not able to do these things on your own. We've done it many, many times, and that's part of what we're doing when we're installing the portal once you buy it. The next bit here is going to be the most techy of all of the things I'm going to present today. So feel free to check your email if that's not of interest to you. But I do think that there are folks out there who are going to have questions about how can this live on my network, and what kind of ability do we have to control access to it from the public internet. Your IT group probably has their own opinions about what an appropriate way to have a publicly facing server on the network, what they feel is the appropriate way to do that. There's a couple of ways that we've seen used over and over. I just want to briefly sort of describe those to you, so that if you're the IT guy, or if you're going to go home and talk to the IT guy, you'd at least be able to tell him, hey, Cole said, we could do it this way, we could do it that way, and do either of those work for us? So in this scenario, this is kind of the simplest scenario, the one that we see used most often. Hey, I got a pointer. So requests are coming in from the public internet. The request is to your public IP address on a specific port, usually port 80 or 443, depending on whether it's SSL or non-SSL. So the request comes in, it hits your firewall, and the firewall knows that any requests that come in for this public IP address actually need to be translated and shunted over to the Quantum Portal virtual machine, which doesn't have a public IP address. It only has a local IP address. So your firewall is acting as the routing mechanism for translating the external public IP address to the local internal IP address. That's how the requests get to the right place. The convenient thing about having your virtual machine, your portal machine, on your LAN is that your Oracle server is also on your LAN. So connecting between your portal and your Oracle server is a no-brainer. They're both on the same subnet. Everything's easy. Now, there are other companies that have come to us and said, this doesn't jibe with our corporate policy, because we say that, our IT guys say that any public-facing server has to reside in a DMZ and can't be on the same subnet with all of our existing valuable resources. So in this scenario, in some ways it's very similar. Requests hit the firewall, and the firewall translates them from the public IP address to the true IP address of your server. But in this case, your server is sitting in its own demilitarized zone, and your Oracle server is inside your LAN. So in this case, we would facilitate the communication between your server in the DMZ and your Oracle on the LAN by punching a pinhole in the firewall between the two that allows you to control access where only communication from this machine to this machine with very specific criteria, only supporting a single port number, lets you effectively block any access except the Oracle access between these two. So the notion here is that this may be safer, because even if somehow someone were to gain unauthorized access to here, they're still not even on the same network segment as your valuable Oracle data. Now, both of these sort of represent ways that we've seen people and we've recommended to people they can set up the portal. One way is simpler, one way is more complicated, but potentially follows certain security policies better. The take-home message is you have some flexibility, and we can work with you to determine what works best in your scenario and help you and help your IT group to implement it. So the last bit here about what we've done to try to make this as secure as possible when the server is going to be living on the public internet is that I've shown diagrams here that sort of imply that the portal connects directly to the quantum database in Oracle. And that's true, but in fact, the portal connects not directly to your quantum schema. It goes through an abstraction layer as a means of controlling access even further between access by external users from outside your network to your valuable data in the quantum Oracle schema. Wow. Yeah, I thought I was doing really well. I'm going to fly now. So access to your data from the portal passes through an additional layer of security, and it allows for you to control access at a very fine-grained level if you choose to do so. So one more diagram. Most of this, I don't need to talk about. The requests come in. Now, the portal is going to access data that's in your quantum schema here, right? And let's say that these sort of orangey boxes represent tables of data. Maybe the top one is your sales order data, the middle one is inventory data, the next one is shipping data, and then this gray one, maybe that's your accounts payable data or your general ledger data. When the quantum portal application connects to Oracle, it doesn't connect directly to the quantum schema. Instead, it connects to a portal schema that sits beside the quantum schema. And you'll note from the cleverly made diagram here that the portal schema doesn't have any data in it. It doesn't own any tables. It doesn't have any data structures or data objects that are owned by the quantum portal, the portal schema. Instead, we're able to grant very specific access from data objects that are in the quantum schema back to the portal schema owner. And in this case, these grants allow you a lot of control. They can be read-only access. They can be access only to small segments of the data. They can be access only to very specific tables and not to others. So in this case, again, even if someone were somehow to manage to gain unauthorized access to this system here, they still can't get to your general ledger because there has been no access granted in any way from the quantum portal to your general ledger data. Quantum portal only has access to the data in your quantum schema that has been designated as necessary for the portal to be able to do the work it's doing, and none of the rest of your data. Sort of as I mentioned before, we've not tried to do things clever or reinvent wheels. We're using generally accepted practices for how to build secure web applications. So by using generally accepted methodologies and mature technologies, we feel that we're maximizing the security profile of the system. If we were inventing our own new ways to do things, maybe we would be introducing new vulnerabilities. In this case, we think that we've really limited the vulnerabilities that can be exploited through the system. As I just described, it doesn't connect directly to data. It only connects to data through an abstraction layer. No access to the portal functionality is available until a user has successfully authenticated himself. So and once he's authenticated himself, we're logging all of that activity, so you've got an audit trail of the ability to see who did what at what time. And then the other thing is that we've, once the system was done, we've implemented it at a number of companies that are large enough, publicly traded companies, major OEMs and large defense contractors, that part of the process of implementing for them was to bring in penetration testing contractors and put it through its paces and try to break into it and try to find vulnerabilities to exploit. And at no time during any of the penetration testing experiences that we've had have they identified any significant vulnerabilities. The most recent one, there were no vulnerabilities reported at any level of severity. So we feel really good that we've done a good job of building a system that lets you expose quantum functionality to the public internet, but do it in a way that where you can rest assured that you've done it safely. I think this is you.
This is me.
I don't know how it's being used.
Well, I do. A couple of ways it's being used. One of them is by one of our customers, Polygon Aerospace. I don't know if folks in the room are trading with Polygon, familiar with Polygon. They're located in Houston. They're an internationally recognized distributor of aircraft fasteners, nearly 3 decades of experience in servicing the aerospace manufacturing and maintenance industries. And they've been a component control customer for over 20 years. They started with Quick Quote back in the day. I've got a link here out to their website. So now we're live in Polygon's website here. You can see their colors, their branding. They've got links up here where it says Stock Check RFQ, and they've actually provided 2 options. They've got one that's linking into what's their part search app. I don't know if any of you saw Maury's presentation a little bit earlier. And then they've got another one that's just standard boarding pass, another one here that's Premier Access, and then this is their portal. So you can see as it takes you into the login for their portal, it's got the same look and feel. Well, it's got the same feel, at least, with usernames and things that I put in a moment ago when I was showing you the demo portal, but it's total their branding. You did. You got a long relationship. Yes, I know. So this will take you into the work screen. This is the admin access, but you're going to see again, it's the look and feel of Polygon's website. So this is how it can be deployed, like Cole was saying, cascading style sheets to give it the look and feel. So the access point is from your website, right? Your customers are at your website, and then it's the same look and feel as the rest of your website. Okay. Additionally, Worthington Aviation is using it as well. Worthington's headquartered in Eagan, Minnesota. They're a global leader of parts support and services for regional business, commercial, and military aviation. Everybody knows Paul. Paul Stewart is the president, is the CIO at Worthington, in addition to being the president of the Q Group board. They've been Quantum customers for over 11 years. To roll out their portal, they even launched their own training video to ease user adoption. Paul was kind enough to allow me to give a link to the video there. And it's open to the public if you want to see the video as well. But with Worthington, same thing. You're accessing it from their database. They've got a link up here from my portal. And then from here you go in, and you can see, again, it's the same username login, but it's got the Worthington look and feel. So it's all stylized to match your own environments. It's real easy to get up and running. We can deploy it. Oh, you were going to talk about this point a little bit, weren't you? We can deploy it to, I'm going to run through because we're running out of time. Deploy to new or existing VMware infrastructure. Our network services group can schedule to install and configure and copy the virtual machine, add to infrastructure server inventory, configure the networking, point it at Oracle, and we can work with you to configure public access to the SSL. So the portal is an optional add-on module. You don't need to license the portal for every additional module in Quantum. Once you have a license to the portal, you have access to all of the portal you have access to all of your licensed Quantum modules that are integrated with the portal. So what I mean by that is, for example, our work order module is an optional module. If you're using work orders, if you license the portal can look at your work orders. All right, you don't need to relicense modules within the portal. Want to get advanced. This is really what Cole should be talking about, but again, we're running out of time. Quantum Quantum Portal platform can be used to create solutions customized to your needs. We talked about pricing and inventory availability rules by user, customer-specific pricing, workflows that match the way you use Quantum. It dovetails with Quantum's Event Manager for notifications and workflow management if you care. Be automated interactions. Because the portal's a web server running 24/7, we can leverage it for other kinds of projects. We had a large international MRO organization that developed a standard to search their vendors' live inventory. So their vendors are all Quantum customers deploying the portal. When this large MRO needs material, from their system, they're not Quantum customers, from their system they've integrated to the portal so that they are making calls out to the portal environments and searching that material and getting the results back. Is that a good high-level description? Sure. Okay. And Cole can give you much more detail on it if you're interested in it. It's using a standard SWAP XML interface. Sits on the internet waiting for the customer to query for inventory availability. The customer may offer preferred vendor status to those vendors who offer this service. This specific MRO has been going out to their Quantum customers, asking them to please get in touch with us and get up and running on the portal to roll it out. I don't know what this is.
So yeah, this is the request that this large MRO organization, their purchasing system makes a request back to a Quantum vendor's portal. In this case, you can see that, give me the pointer. He's got anything else to do. Their system is building this XML automatically. There's no human interaction here, right? This is computer-to-computer communication. You would build a username and password for them, just like any other portal user. And then their system is going to put in 0 or more, I don't know why you'd use 0, but let's say 1 or more, repetitions of a list of part numbers. And then when this is sent to the Quantum portal, it's going to do a live search against your inventory and give back to this large MRO organization a response. And in this case, the response shows that we successfully got the part result, and here's the part number, and the MRO did not specify a manufacturer, and here's a list of my available inventory. Some of these, this is all, the XML is all specified by the MRO. This is their standard. We're just complying with it. And some of this stuff is in German, so I don't know what a lot of these things mean, but it tells us that there's this one is in new condition, and it has a location code here, and there's a quantity. No, I didn't return the quantity here, but interestingly, they're totally flexible. They don't care which of the fields they've specified you send back. They just want some information to come back in this automated way. I've implemented this web service for, 8 or 10 of our Quantum vendors now, and now their customer, this MRO organization, is actually marketing this to our customers. They say, oh, hey, you vendor, you use Quantum? Call this guy Cole Davison. He can help set this up for you. So it's really, they're finding it really helps their efficiency, and as I said in an earlier slide, they give preferential treatment to the vendors who have implemented this web service.
Cool. So just to wrap it up, some key points to take home. You can get closer to your customers by putting information from Quantum onto your website quickly and easily with the portal. Data points to multiple modules out of the box. So all those modules I showed you earlier, that's out-of-the-box portal. Those fields are available out of the box, standard portal stuff. But beyond that, as we talked about, we have access to anything within Quantum from the portal if you want. So we can perform customization as custom programming on a time and materials basis to any Quantum portal, to any Quantum module or field. Local web design resources can be deployed to match the look and feel of your website via the CSS files and graphics, so you don't need to rely on component control for that. It's simple to administer. You can do it all yourselves. It's easy to get up and running. Virtually unlimited platform for additional web services and other web-based functionalities. Deployed using only open source technology means no third-party licensing costs, and designed from the ground up to be secure on the public internet, connecting directly to Quantum in real time, meaning no extracts or imports. For more information, you've got links to our portal webpage here, including a demonstration video. Q Group members, of course, can go to the Q Group forums to talk about to others who are having experience with the portal. Our contact information is right here. Thanks for a little applause. My cards are up front and in back. If anybody wants more info, we'd be happy to show it to you next door in the lounge as well, do some searches or whatever. So thanks, everybody.